Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Peekaboo is back with one of my top 10 lists, and I think you guys are gonna like this one. But yeah, I'm gonna be going over the top 10 best villains in Beyblade Burst. And this is my opinion. And also, I'm not doing my favorite villains, I'm doing the ones that were the best at being villains. I got some criteria to really, just make this kind of more statistical. Like, I really had to think this out when I made this. A motive behind what they're doing, why they're doing what they're doing. Feared or respected. So these villains have to be feared, by whoever, anyone, whatever. All powerful. They seem undefeatable for a good portion of the show. Unpredictable. They can be, maybe they were like on the good guys team, or they didn't seem evil, and then they just boom, wow everyone, because they're like, oh, that's the antagonist. And then I was thinking maybe like tragic backstory or something, but Beyblade doesn't really do that, so I don't think we have to worry about that one. Or maybe they have some struggle in their life, that could be the tragedy. So let's get right into the list. At number 10, one of the main, I guess like the semi-main antagonists, it's from everyone's favorite season, Beyblade Burst Rise. That is going to Arthur Paragon, the 10th best villain. This guy, he just felt kind of like a joke to me. I never could take him seriously. Let's start with what was it, Aiger and Delta battling? Or maybe Aiger and Dante, and Arthur barges in and launches his Payne. And yeah, he wins, but they were already launched for a few seconds, so it's not really that impressive. You just interrupted a battle. What else? This guy's goal was to take over Beyblade, take over the WBBA. Like, can't they just lock him up for that immediately? Like, what's with all this? Why do Bladers have to stop him? It just doesn't make sense. Why do you want to take over Beyblade? Like, what was his motive? Because he thinks he's the best, probably. I don't know, man. I could just never take this guy seriously, especially when we had a lot better villain in Rise. I just felt like we could have focused more on Gwyn and less on Arthur. Arthur was just not very threatening. Or interesting, for that matter. Let's go on to number 9. At number 9, I put this guy kind of low because he just wasn't really a villain, but that was Hyde. He had like a villain arc when Aiger went to the Dread Tower, and he kind of like toyed with him, mocked him, bullied him a little bit. But he definitely isn't a villain, but he is related to Phi, so maybe he is a villain. But I don't know, I just only put him here because he's not really a villain. But I do like Hyde, and I think he's one of the best characters in the series, actually. And he definitely has that tragedy area on him. And he was all-powerful for a little bit. And he was feared for a little bit. But other than that, he's just not really a villain, so I didn't want to put him too high. At number 8, we have got Lane Valahala. This guy, he's not really one of my favorite characters. I think I've said before. I'm not crazy about Lane, but I do think he's better than Arthur, I guess. He was very strong at the beginning of the show, like, because he's consumed by his flare, which I guess that makes sense. He's got, like, anger issues or something. But yeah, he was very strong. I can't even remember what his first loss was. Did he, like, lose his shoe in training? But he beat, like, Free and stuff pretty easily. Well, not easily, but he beat them. So, for a rookie to come out of that strong, it's pretty impressive. Of course, you could just sum that up the plot armor. But for a villain standpoint, they gotta start strong. And Lane definitely started strong, because he feared. Yes, he broke bays, that kind of thing. I think everyone was kind of unsettled by him, but Shu, like, wanted to save him or whatever. Shu wasn't afraid of him, but I feel like people kind of were. It's been a while since I watched Surge, so bear with me. He was all-powerful, yes. Unpredictable, no. It was obvious from the start that he was going to be an antagonist. His bay was literally Lucifer, so there was no hiding that. His motive, I would say his motive is just to let out his flare. I don't really... Like, the flare was controlling him, so it's not like... At least that's how I saw it. It wasn't really his 100% choice to be so evil. He just needed to find a way to cope with it. And then tragedy, I would say, again, being controlled by his flare was kind of the tragedy for Lane. But he did turn good in the end. I don't know. I just felt like his villain arc was kind of just... It could have been better. I really think the making Burst 10 minutes really took an impact on the characters. I feel like Lane could have been a lot more in-depth, been a lot more evil. I'm going to say this a million times on like every character, but I feel like he just could have been a lot better and more fleshed out. That's the saying. He just felt very bland to me. And it was like obvious that he was going to get beat at the end. Which it kind of always is, but you know. Let's go to number 7. Another villain that kind of faces these same problems, but I'm personally kind of biased, and I just like this character. That is Rashad Goodman. This guy faced some serious confusion with his writing. He's one minute he's nice to Belle and Vol, and next he's an ass to them. Very just confused with the writing. I heard this point made out a few times. I still love Rashad as a character. In the manga, he's amazing. He is like easily top 5 villains in the manga. But we're talking about the anime here. And yeah, like I said, his writing is confusing. His motive for doing... I mean, he wasn't really evil. Let's be real. He just didn't like Belle was really all that was. And I think his motive was putting Belle in his place. And just, you know, displaying his power. Feared? I mean, yeah. I mean... Was he kind of feared? Not really, but he definitely was out of everyone's league for a little bit. Let's not forget, correct me if I'm wrong, but when he broke Valtryek, he had a red Valtryek. No even a Bay spear. Like, his bond with his Bay wasn't even that good. And he was so strong to beat the champion and break the champion's Bay while he didn't even have it. He was so strong for a while, until the end of the series. He kind of started getting weaker, but I feel like he definitely was all-powerful. But he definitely wasn't scary. Unpredictable? I would say yes. Again, I'm probably being a little biased, but let's remember, guys. When he first came to the show, he hugged Belle, he was nice to him, he was just a big Vault fanboy. So him kind of, again, he wasn't really evil, he just didn't like Belle, but him kind of turning evil, in quotations, was kind of unpredictable. In tragedy, no. Again, I really feel like Rashad could have been a way better villain if the show wasn't 10 minutes. Let's move on to number 6. The 6th best villain in Beyblade Burst is none other than Pax Foresight. Now this guy, one of the saving graces of Quad Strike. Quad Strike was not my favorite season, but this guy really, when you even think about it, he's even better. Let's talk about it. So his motive was to bring out the elements, I guess. I guess that was his motive. And he had a very good backstory that I really liked, that he hurt his arm and he couldn't blade again. And it was like 8 years ago. But he did end up making a gauntlet to make him blade again, so that's cool. Was he all powerful? For a little bit. That is my biggest problem with Pax, that he didn't have time to flesh out his villainness. He had, because it was like the last 3 episodes he was the villain, the true villain with the Bay. So he didn't really get time to do anything. But he could have been so good. I'm going to rewrite these seasons someday of what they could have been, but he could have been a great villain. He just didn't have time to be a villain. And that's my biggest problem with Pax. Let's go on to the 5th best villain. That's going to go to Gwyn Reynolds. what I like Gwyn is he's very unique to the other villains. I feel like he wasn't a jerk. He wasn't a bully. He wasn't like this, just a mean guy. He didn't break bays, which is a big one. He was just a smart guy who was gifted. Right when he lifted up a bay, he was good at blading. He is just a gifted kid, and I think his problem was, what was his motive? I feel like he had like a thing against friendship. That was the thing with Gwyn. He didn't like the friendship stuff. But I can't really remember. But he was very powerful. Virtually undefeated to the end of the series, if I'm not mistaken. Unpredictable? Yeah, I would say he was unpredictable because he seemed like a nice guy when you first met him. I do think his introduction, like to the poster, kind of made it seem like he was going to be a villain. Because how big his head was on the poster. You knew he was going to be important. But yeah, that's it. He's just kind of... He's a good character, but I think as a villain, he wasn't that evil. Yeah. He was just on Arthur's side and ended up outshining Arthur in every way. So that's kind of why people see Gwyn more as the main antagonist than Arthur. So let's go on to number 4. The 4th best villain. Debatably not a villain, but I had to get 10 spots. So we're going to do Lui Shirosagi in Season 1. Lui was a great villain. The thing that made Lui so good is that he won in the end. He won the last battle. And it was all like a fluke of why he won. Which makes it so much more frustrating for the heroes. Which I kind of wish that didn't happen. I kind of wish Lui just won to show how powerful he is. But, let's go over all these things. Motive. He wants to be the strongest blade or keep his title. Put losers like Shu in their place, what he thinks. And we did see some backstory of Lui. He was kind of this guy who didn't really talk to anyone. And, he was just really good at Beyblade. Always trains really hard. And that's it. Feared? Yes. Even his own teammates don't talk back to him besides Kyo. And the Bay Club, you know, like Shu just hates him. He thinks he's a monster. All powerful, yes. He didn't lose a single battle in Season 1. Unpredictable. No, we kind of knew that Lui was going to be kind of the evil guy from when he started. That's just his personality. I don't think he really needs it. In Tragedy, you know, not really. We saw he had a backstory. He seemed like a loner. But he didn't really have any big tragedy besides being tanked in the newer seasons. But Lui was a great villain. More like an antagonist than a villain, but you know. Okay, let's get to the top 3. The top 3 best villains in Beyblade Burst. At number 3, we have Redeye. Formerly known as Shu Koronai. So this guy is probably one of the most tragic villains, I'll say. You know, because he turned good at the end, and he was good before. So it's kind of interesting. He was upset about losing, and he didn't want to be weak anymore. He didn't want to lose, so he got tricked by Theodore, and all this stuff happened to him, and he did a lot of bad things, like breaking bays. But his motive was obviously to be stronger. After he lost to Lui, he was just not himself, you know? Was he feared? Yes. No one even knew he was Redeye somehow, even though it was kind of obvious. All-powerful? Yes. He broke like 4 bays. Unpredictable. Again, yeah, like people thought that this wasn't Shu somehow, so yes, in that regard, he was unpredictable. In Tragedy, yes, I talked about that. He was upset about losing, blah, blah, blah. He was evil, he turned on his friends, he hurt Vault. Definitely had the most emotional impact out of all the villains. But he did turn good in the end. And he did have a mastermind behind all of that who was even a better villain than he was. That being number 2, Theodore Glass. Let's get right into him. This guy was a manipulative snake. He was the guy. Like, all villains have their fans, but this Theodore fella, or Ashton, whatever you want to call him, no one liked him because he was just so despicable. And that's what makes a good villain. You know, he wanted to produce one of the strongest, he wanted to produce the strongest blader, being Redeye. So that's his motive. Was he feared? Yes. I know, Ashton was. Theodore not so much. He was very, like I said, he was a manipulative guy. Everyone trusted what he said besides Chris. Like, he convinced even, like, Joshua to join his team, Fred to join his team. He is just very good at that. Was he all-powerful? Yes, he was like a rich guy, leader of a team, of the strongest, or one of the strongest teams out there. Unpredictable. Yeah. I don't think we knew that Ashton was Theodore. And you know, he's just this nice-ish, kind of off-putting business guy at first. But then we see that he is the real villain. I think that guy, Theodore's just like a sociopath. And I'm all for it. He should have had another season because he could have done so much more. Well, let's go on to the best villain. I was on and off between Theodore and this guy. But I decided to go to this guy because I personally just like him. That being Hyde. Hyde is the best villain of Beyblade Burst. He was the one who started the trope of breaking the protagonist's base and all that. Which, after Hyde did it, everyone else, it just felt stale. Like, do something else. But, when Hyde did it, it was cool. Like, when Hyde first came to the show, he came out of the meteor. He was like, this almost not human. He doesn't have a last name, he's just very majestic. Remember when they did the power launch thing, and his power, like, broke the machine? Even though he doesn't look tough, but he's still, like, super strong. Like, he just had so many qualities that made him inhuman. His eyes turned black when he battled. You know, he wasn't necessarily evil. He was just like this calm, chill guy that seemed a little weird. But then, that's what made him unpredictable. We didn't expect him to be a villain until we saw his eyes turn black. And then we were like, okay. He broke bays, he broke LeBron's bay. And then to toy with everyone, including Vault, he broke Shoe's bay and Free's bay. He was just a maniac who wanted to break every bay in his path to bring out his true residence or something of that sort. And of course, breaking Aiger Bay, he loved toying with his opponents. Oh man, I could go on forever. But Hyde was just a great villain. His motive, I don't know. People say that his motive was because of when he was with Hyde and when they were kids. I don't think that it was necessarily his motive to why he was doing all these things. But it didn't help because it made him mad. He didn't get what he wanted. When Hyde took Hades and Hyde was stuck with the bay he didn't want. I do think there was a lot more to that story, and I wish they went deeper into it. That would have been really cool. But it's cool that he did have a backstory, and it shows that he's kind of an ass. He was always an asshole, but yeah, I think Hyde's the best villain. He was so powerful, broke the most bays in the series to this day. He seemed unbeatable. He beat 9 bladers. Not just random Joes like Lui did in Evolution, but he beat 9 bladers, including Aiger, Suo, Fubuki, a bunch of those guys. All in a battle royale. He beat all of them. He was just such a strong blader, and yeah, I think most people can agree that he was the best villain. Tell me what your thoughts are in the comments. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Be cool. All is out.